8th grade. This is the debut movie from director Bo Burnham. If you aren't previously familiar with Bo Burnham's work, he's a stand-up comedian who gained fame from YouTube. He has several comedy specials and continues to do other work in the field. I myself have been a big fan of him for many years, so I was very eager to see this movie. Now, all that said, this movie is very little to do with anything that he has done before. The premise of this movie is following the life of an 8th grade girl as she goes through her last week of 8th grade. It touches on several different monumental events for an 8th grader, such as going to a pool party, going to the mall, or just handling social media. And I have to say, right now, my initial response from seeing this movie is it is an incredible film. This movie does so many things right. I think the biggest thing I liked about this movie is the cast. This movie isn't filled with A-list celebrities, but rather actual 8th graders and teachers and parents and people who are living in this world. The majority of the time when you do see this coming-of-age movie taken from the perspective of a middle schooler or high schooler, usually it's played by someone in their mid-late 20s, and it just doesn't feel authentic. This movie is the exact opposite of it. It is an actual girl in 8th grade. And there are times where you almost forget this is fictional because it feels so real. You feel like you're watching a documentary or someone that just took a camera and followed around an actual girl in her actual middle school. I think for some people this might have been a risky move, but it paid off in the long run. The way that these characters kind of handle these situations they're put in are so authentic and real to an 8th grader. The acting in this movie is honestly incredible, and that's part of what makes it feel so magical. I really wish we could see more movies like this, because this movie also takes away from the typical trope we've seen before, where a high schooler or middle schooler is put in a situation, there's a fallout, there's a climax, there's this resolution, and this movie really doesn't have a lot of that. Honestly, there's not much of a storyline other than just the life of this girl for a week. In that sense, it reminded me a lot of Lady Bird, which was another film by A24, and it kind of follows the year of a senior in high school. And there's not a lot of story, but it's just little individual parts of her life throughout this year. This movie is the same way. We do find resolution with the characters, we do find conflict, but they're done realistically and in a way that you would actually handle conflict in the real world. Another great part of this movie is the fact that it's so accurate in the way that 8th graders handle technology and social media now. Bo Burnham talked about this in some of his interviews, mentioning that he consulted with a lot of 8th graders to make sure this movie was accurate to the way that they were handling situations. We see this girl using Snapchat and Instagram, kind of waking up using these filters to make herself look better than she is. And the camera angles that they specifically use in these scenes make it look like you are looking at your phone and you are the one doing these things. Honestly, this movie is pretty much just an hour and a half of you living the life of this girl. You feel for her, you cringe. There are times where the whole theater felt more tense than any action or horror movie I've ever seen. The way this movie is filmed is so genius too, because there are parts where you'll just see a still image and you already know where the scene is going because we've all been in this position before. This movie is also very funny. And not in the intentional way where it's constantly making jokes, but it's funny simply based off these characters and the situations that they are in. You have the dad in this movie just making so many good dad jokes, and then there's the teachers who are using language and doing things to try to relate to the kids, and it is just not working, and so much fun to watch them fail. I cannot recommend this movie enough. It is so enjoyable to watch. And honestly, right now, it is by far my favorite movie I have seen in 2018. I am begging you, please go see this movie. I need Bo Burnham to make more movies like this. As of filming this right now, this movie does have the highest average revenue per screen in the US. Now, it only has a limited release as of now, but it is scheduled to have a wide release soon. So please go find out when this film is playing in your local theater and go support independent films like this. This movie will touch you. It'll make you feel things. It'll bring you back to a time when you were this age in the best way possible. It'll make you laugh. It'll touch on specific issues and make you look at them in a completely new way. So what'd you think? Please tell me your thoughts. I would love to hear what you thought of this movie. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video specifically to Bo Burnham because I need to thank him for making this movie.